And if I don't win, I will continue to run in the primaries, even if there are none. And now for my second announcement. Live from New York, it's Saturday night!
Hello and welcome to the Not Ready for Primetime podcast. We're Gary Seath and Brad Robinson.
And you're not.
Tonight, we are talking about Season 1, Episode 4, hosted by Candice Bergen, with musical guest Esther Phillips. Brad, this show was so much fun.
It was fun. I would use fun. I don't know if I would use the word good, but it was definitely fun.
I don't know. I disagree. I think all in all, I think it was good.
I didn't mean it as a bad thing, like it was a bad episode. I just, it was definitely more fun than good overall to me. And it's interesting because this is the episode where many people will cite, I think including Lorne Michaels as well, that this is where the show really found itself, where it really took its form, et cetera, et cetera. And it was interesting, especially after watching last week's episode, where I feel a lot of the vibe and feeling of SNL actually really, I think, as I said last episode, came from that Rob Reiner episode. So it was interesting watching that, then going into this with I don't know if hype is the right word, but just, you always hear this is the one, this is the one, this is the one. I haven't seen this in a few years. So I was kind of cold going in. And so I think I was expecting good, but right. I don't feel upset that I got fun. If that makes sense.
I think it makes sense. I think it's also different from the rest of the shows so far in that there was a lot of comedy in this show, a lot of sketches, some commercials, some pre-tapes, but it was mostly comedy. Not that the Rob Reiner episode was as well, but just kind of, this is the one where it felt like people were in the groove and hitting on all cylinders.
Yeah, it's because they had the off week.
I think that's totally part of it, right?
It is. And I actually will give, I think the biggest credit to this goes to Candice Bergen. I think this is the first time this season we have seen a host give themselves to the show. I think this is why it feels popular. This is why they found it, this is the first episode, in my opinion at least, where the host really submits to the show. They're all in. The show is about the show and the cast, not the host. And the host is just all in, is like, whatever you want, let's do it. I'm game. Let's make it work. The first episode is George Carlin. It is what it is, obviously. Then we have the Paul Simon episode. You get Rob Reiner, where it's not necessarily prima donna, but you have those issues. And this is somebody, I think, with Candice Bergen comes in. I think she's a fan of the show by the time she came on. It had been on for 3 weeks. So, a month has gone since it first premiered. So she's had to, she's seen it. The other people Carlin, nothing. Rob Reiner, all he had was Carlin to go off of. So Candice Bergen should get tons of credit as to why this episode is as good as it is. And this is the reason why this episode is what people give it credit for, is because she was just so game for everything. And you could tell throughout the whole night.
Oh, well, she was in so much, right? She was in more of this show than any of the previous hosts, aside from Paul Simon, who was just singing the whole time. But she was in a lot of sketches. She
was in a lot, and she just had fun. She could just tell she was having fun. I think we're going to go through a lot of these sketches, and you're going to give me a bunch of shit, because I'm going to be like, what is this sketch about? And the answer is nothing except being silly. But for whatever reason, tonight it worked.
Yeah.
I didn't mind. I think there's at least one, this is a long, we'll get to it. There's one note gags that I've been complaining about for 3 weeks that tonight I'm felt great. It was funny.
Yeah.
This was fun.
Okay. I'm really excited to get into that with you, because I think there's a lot less of that this week than there has been in previous episodes.
You know who didn't have fun with this episode?
Who's that?
Lorne Michaels, who quit after the monologue.
So tell me more.
I think we've kind of brushed upon it a little bit. He was having trouble with the network. He was having trouble getting what he wanted. He was promising people were going to come on the show, have the best lighting, have the best sound, all the state-of-the-art stuff, and then he wasn't getting it. So things just kept building and building. I believe this show started late. NBC had a movie on at primetime that went long. So the start time tonight was pushed back to 11:45. So I think that already had him upset. And then something again with losing his sound guy, not having the sound guy he wanted, not having the lighting director he wanted, just getting upset. And then we'll get into it a little bit, but after the monologue, we do one of, the Saturday Night Live pre-taped commercial parodies. And apparently the NBC affiliate WNBC cut out of it, thinking it was like a network spot or whatnot, and like put on their own. They just changed the commercial and cut out early. And that was insane. Like the straw. Who's paying? Again, they're probably still not paying attention to what's going on. Like, who knows? It's some guy in a booth somewhere hitting a button. So that was the straw. And then Lauren quits, but stays on for the rest of the show because he doesn't want to upset Candice Bergen and, screw her over. So he basically stays on for the rest of the show, but then is out. And I'm sure we'll get into it more next week when we talk about Robert Klein. But it was just a lot of it was chipping away.
Don't give it away.
He had been fighting. He'd been fighting.
People
with
listen at the
Dick
end to
Ebersol.
see what the next episode is. Can we talk about Candice Bergen for a second?
Let's.
So, I like Candice Bergen. I think you said it earlier. She's great in this show. She gives it all in this episode. What I don't think I appreciate now, and I certainly didn't appreciate when I saw this earlier in my life, was I didn't understand. I don't understand how popular Candice Bergen was at this point.
Yeah. I think people, under the age of 60 or whatever, mostly think of her as Murphy Brown. And so you don't think of what she was in the 70s and 75, but she's a movie star. She was a legit movie star at this point. And yeah, she was kind of a big deal.
It's funny because she was a movie star. She was in some really great films. I wasn't alive at this point, but I still think of her as, her dad was famous. And in my mind, I was like, well, that's how she got into.
Oh, right. What did her dad do? The comedian with the puppet, with the ventriloquist.
With Charlie McCarthy.
Yes, yes. Oh, because that's her whole deal. Like that, her dad loved the puppet more than her and all that. Yes.
Edgar Bergen.
Right.
His puppet, Charlie McCarthy, who people used to introduce Candice Bergen as Charlie McCarthy's younger sibling, and she did not like that. Yeah.
Yes.
But for me, I think that was in my mind. I thought, oh, well, that's how she got famous, I guess. But no, she was in some interesting films, and at this point, she was known
and not known for comedy. She wasn't known as a comedian at this point, but she does a great job carrying this show.
Oh, she's great. She is the one commercial where it's just her, and she's is brilliant in that.
Yeah, she's great. And you know what else I noticed? And I feel like this happened a lot so far. When did I notice it? I think during the Polaroid bit, you don't see them reading cue cards that much. Especially her. she knows her lines, and a lot of her lines are delivered to the other actors, not off stage to the cue card, but she's in it. She knows what she's doing. She's got her lines down, which you can just tell has that kind of sense of community to it a little bit more, where everybody's totally in it.
She's phenomenal in this throughout this entire episode, I think. Should we get into it now?
Let's get there's tons of good stuff in here. I'm excited. Let's do it.
It starts off with our cold open. We have Chevy's first impression of Gerald Ford.
Do we? Well, go ahead. You want to explain it, and then I'll ask Mike why I say it. Well, you tell it, and now go ahead.
So Chevy comes on stage as President Gerald Ford, thanking them for letting him open the Saturday night show, is what he says. Right. And then does a bunch of physical comedy, some of which I think is great and classic Chevy Chase. And then it goes into his standard pratfall live from New York.
Okay. What's with the Chiron? Is it Chiron? Did I say it right?
You said it right, yeah.
What I don't understand is the Chiron, where they say that he's not the president. This is a guy who just thinks he is. So, was the original idea that he wasn't going to play Gerald Ford, and this went over so well that he does become making it Gerald? Because that's what confused me. Is he actually supposed to be Gerald Ford or just some random guy? Is that the joke?
Well, when I saw this, to me it read this is a network note. I don't know. That was my initial reaction. It
didn't cheapen the sketch for me. I thought it was funny. It was really good. I was just wondering, it was interesting looking back now where we know he plays Gerald Ford so many times, that's what they do this first time. Was it supposed to be Ford or supposed to be a one-off that they were just going to do?
It does say the seal on the podium that he's talking, it says the unofficial seal of the President of the United States, or the United States of America.
How cheap does that podium look?
It looks very cheap.
Like when,
Almost as cheap as some of the gags of him hitting his head on the podium.
like when he does the falls behind it,
Yes.
it looks like a cardboard podium you have in kindergarten class that's going to fall. Like I was waiting for that to break when he fell down every time because it looked like it was just like, like a moving box that they painted.
It's a cardboard box with a seal. But his physical comedy with the glass and the water and everything is
It's great. It's top notch right off the bat. It's like Gerald Ford bumbling right from the beginning with the papers and the water and him falling down. Like it's all great. Yeah, it works. It's so funny. And then he goes for like this, he says his announcement and then he's like, "Oh, my next thing." And he, turns and takes 2 steps. And of course I'm like, goddamn folding chairs.
right.
Like, why are there folding chairs on that stage? Oh, here you go. Like, oh, that was as soon as I see him turn, I'm like, of course.
Of course there are folding chairs just sitting there randomly.
I don't know. The fall itself felt forced to me a little bit, but now we know it's a thing. Like now we know this is obviously a thing. It's been the 3rd one in a row. They're blatantly writing for him to fall. And it's like well established now 3 times in a row. Like this is what we're doing. So like they're totally leaning into it. And it works. Like I said, it works. It's really funny.
The opening credits then come on, and then there's a big omission in the opening credits.
It's really weird. Yeah. I'm chalking that up to a technical mistake. Like there's another card or something because it's weird. It's half the cast. O'Donoghue's on it. It's something weird. I feel like.
I read somewhere that it was a glitch in the control room. I don't know what that means.
Maybe that's what sent Lauren over, and that's why he quit. Who knows? Maybe that was part of it. Could have been.
That could have been part of it.
We should ask. He's not yet a friend of the pod, so I don't know. But one of these days we'll ask.
I'm sure he will be. It only took Mark Maron talking about him for like 10 years to get him on his podcast. So
wait, there's nothing else going on right now.
We come to
what are these 2 ham and eggers saying about me?
Oh, he's turned into Bobby the Brain Heenan.
It's my first Bobby Heenan reference this season.
The monologue starts with Candice Bergen already on stage.
Very weird. Don't like it.
Yeah, but a huge ovation from the audience.
I had that too. She had a great response, which just proves how popular she is. But I don't understand, and even more so, after they introduce her, she stands right up.
Yeah.
Why are you there sitting looking so weird? And then they announce your name, and then she just stands up. I mean, I realize why in a minute when Belushi comes out, but it was a weird opening.
Belushi comes out as a bee and sits on her hand, which is on the stool. And then Chevy comes in to warn her that she has a bee on her hand.
It's a great opening. The bee joke is so silly, and it works so well. Belushi is so great.
Belushi's amazing as the bee. It's so silly, but he's so good.
I love, Chevy comes out in the unbuttoned bow tie from Gerald Ford. And what I really liked about this too is, remember the end of the last episode was the first time they kind of like break the wall, kind of behind the scenes sort of thing with the bees yelling at Rob Reiner. Now it's like, well, Chevy pops up. Like he's playing Chevy. Kind of, you know what I mean? Like it's written, but it's kind of backstage-ish a little bit. So like right off the bat off this, they're leaning into that again, which I liked because it works. And I also thought it was, just kind of interesting, I guess, in hindsight, but it's Chevy versus Belushi. Chevy's beating Belushi. It was like interesting. It wasn't Dan or Garrett. It was Chevy John was interesting.
I thought it was interesting that you used Chevy again right away. And
well, I don't think that's that interesting. I mean, he's starting to get momentum. Like by this point, it's Chevy. I mean,
he's in a lot in this episode. I think that for me it's getting a little Chevy heavy. So why not have one of the women come in, have Gilda or Jane come in to do that?
Well, I don't think you're the only person that's going to have that thought that things are getting Chevy heavy. So
yeah, but John's facial expressions as the bee are outstanding.
Great. He's great. So it's so good. I loved it.
Again, and you could tell.
Pointless, so silly, but it was funny and it worked. It was great.
And you could tell that Candice thought it was funny. He puts his head on her shoulder at the end and smiles, and they both were just like, all right, this is fun.
You can tell the two of them are close, and they really have a connection. They get along, and we see it down the line in future episodes. The Christmas episode, she has a bit with him. You can definitely tell the two of them have a connection there, and it really shows.
Yeah. At the end of it, Candice says, "We'll be right back after this filmed message again."
And you think that would have signified to somebody that maybe this was part of the show, but apparently not.
The folks at WNBC thought it was actually a filmed message.
WNBC.
This commercial parody is for the Ambassador Training Institute, which starts out with Dan and Lorraine as a married couple and then throws right to a spokesperson. Do we know who this guy is?
Yeah, Andrew Duncan. He did the voice of Triple Track in episode 1. So, okay. This is that they go out in LA in that summer and they record all these, batch of pre-tapes, and, he's one of them. I'm sure we see him again, much like, what was it, Wendell Craig, I don't know. Like you said, Ambassador Training Institute, you can, looking for a better job, you can become an ambassador. It's go ahead.
Silly. It's also silly, right? It's nonsensical. It's a commercial about how you can get a better job and become an ambassador, and all you have to do is send in $300,000. And
the name of the country you want to.
The name of the country. I thought it was okay.
It was funny. It felt a bit long to me.
Yep. Maybe
because it was just, the spokes guy, the multiple question gag was pretty funny. Do you do A or B? It was fine. I liked it. It did feel a little long to me.
Yeah, that was all. It was fine. Then the first sketch of the night takes place in a CIA office with Dan in an office that is just a mess.
Yeah, this one's very interesting. Go ahead. Describe. Yeah. Go ahead. I'll hear your description on this one.
Okay. So Dan plays a CIA agent, which we find out as he answers the phone for the CIA. And then Garrett comes in. This is the first time of the night. Something that I noticed throughout the night is everyone's using their real names.
There's a lot of that. Like Candice Bergen does it a few times. Like, yeah, you're right.
All do.
I have this mind. It was like Garrett plays himself, ?
Well, I think that was possibly, I was thinking, they're trying to get everyone's names out, not just Chevy's.
Maybe.
Possibly.
Because Jane does it.
Jane does it as Congresswoman.
Yeah.
They have that conversation.
Jane does it twice.
Gilda.
Doesn't Jane do it in Black Perspective too?
Jane does it twice. Yep. And Candice does it a few times. But Garrett comes in looking for his CIA file. And then the whole premise is that...
This is my question. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Yes. What is it?
Dan can't possibly find his file. So Garrett starts naming off all of these different crimes that he's done in order to narrow it down to him.
So does he want to get arrested? Like, why? I don't understand, why he was admitting all these things.
I don't think he was trying to get arrested. I think the idea of it was that Dan's rope-a-doping him into telling him all of the different things that he's done.
Oh, that's what you think it was?
That's what I think, because then at the end...
The end is great. It's a great ending. It's prime Dan Aykroyd. I think we're just scratching the surface of what Dan Aykroyd does. It's a great Dan bit. He had to have co-written this, if not written the whole thing himself, but he had to have a hand in it.
Oh, definitely.
But the trip they took to get there, I thought was just dumbfounded. I'm like, why is he doing this? I don't get it. But as soon as he left and Dan clicks into classic Dan mode, it was great. It's like, then cry on or out. But the trip we took, I do not understand why we did that.
Yeah, well, it again was long, and there were a lot of parts to it. And it's fast. Like Dan just is talking fast the whole time and moving.
It's a great sketch. It's a fun, again, I don't think it's good, but it was fun. It was fun to watch, and it had a payoff. And for that, I appreciated it.
One of my favorite little bits was when Garrett goes to grab his pencil. He's like, "Not that pencil, that is mine."
Yeah, it's got some good. It was a good bit. And Garrett was good in it. It was fun. I enjoyed it.
For as fast as Dan was going this whole time, Garrett kept up with him, and I thought he was great.
You know what else I don't understand?
What's that?
Esther Phillips.
Well, are we at Esther Phillips already?
Oh, fuck. I'm sorry. I'm on mine. My notes are for my old ones. Sorry. God damn it. I had a segue. It would have been great. What are we doing, Jaws?
I'm not cutting any of this out.
Moving right along, I guess... is now the time to mention that if you watch this on the DVD and Peacock,
I think this
may be a different order than how it was actually shown. So if someone did their notes and set them out in a way that the episode was originally aired, their notes are currently way out of order, and they didn't go back to change them.
correct.
Okay, moving on.
Moving on. The next bit was this classic sketch for Jaws 2.
Here it is. Yep.
I think it is underappreciated how wonderful Belushi's Richard Dreyfuss impression is in this sketch.
I'm so
You don't think
on
so?
that. I'm so.
Why?
That Hooper Brody bit of the sketch,
Yeah.
I did not like. I didn't think it was funny. I didn't like it. I understand why they did it because, you cut back and forth to the women who never left the same set every time.
Right.
The third one, the egg salad one was funny. Like, I don't know. It was fine.
I think egg salad was second because the third one was when the guy calls him and he's like,
"Oh, you're coming, stag." Yeah.
But I think if you watch Belushi's Richard Dreyfuss impression, the way he like breathes and he's like,
oh yeah,
so Richard Dreyfuss.
When he does the dead body one, when he picks up the first time and sees the body, and he looks like, no, it's very good. It is good. I hadn't seen this in quite a long time. I forgot that Candice and Jane were in it. Like you always see the Gilda and the Lorraine Newman one is the most commonly seen clip. So it was fun to see the whole sketch in its entirety. And, the going back and forth worked. I mean, if anybody hasn't seen it, doesn't know what it is, but there's, it was nostalgically fun to see the land shark for the first time. It's such a stupid premise that, he preys on single women on land. And so you get, Gilda as the first one who's so dumb and naive. She's like, "Oh, telegram." And she opens the door. It's just hilarious. Lorraine's is great, but it's like, it's the second time they've played up on the Jaws phenomenon, which makes me think I wasn't thinking or appreciating like how huge that movie was at that time.
Oh, that movie was gigantic.
Because part of this joke too, not only the land shark, is that they would make a sequel to a shark, killing movie. And not only do they make a sequel, do they go making 4 or 5 sequels or by the end of it?
I believe so. Yeah.
It's fun to see. I love Lorraine where she's like being a badass and then he convinces her that he's a dolphin. So she opens the door. Like, it's so good.
Yes.
Mrs. Arlsberg,
Who?
Mrs. Bergen,
Who is it?
Flowers,
Flowers for whom?
plumber, ma'am.
I don't need a plumber. You're that clever shark, aren't you?
Candy Graham.
Candy grab my foot. You get out of here before I call the police. You're the shark and you know it.
Wait, I'm only a dolphin, ma'am.
A dolphin? Well, okay.
But it was interesting to me, like, they didn't bother to, like, change the sets. Like, I understand you used Hooper and Brody so you could switch the women out and, like, get them repositioned in the set, but it's like, maybe just have 2 women. I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah.
It worked. And then Candice Bergen has a mallet on her shelf. Like, that was the best part when she goes to open
mallet?
the door.
I forget.
Yeah, it was like a fucking
you're right.
gong
Yes.
mallet. And she like walks to the bookshelf and reaches behind. I'm like, she has a mallet?
Yeah. And that bit ends with Garrett Morris getting clobbered and stumbling in, taking 4 steps into the apartment after he's been hit with the mallet.
Yeah. And I think, the idea is funny. And it was great to see the women, for the first time.
Yeah.
You saw all the women really featured, which was nice. So that was fun.
Yeah, it was great. It's a classic sketch.
Yeah. This is an example of a one-note sketch that I think is hilarious. Like, all this is somebody outside a door with squeaky, funny voices. Someone opens the door, and then repeatedly, you know what it's going to be, and it's funny and it works.
I think this is different than the one-note sketches you've been complaining about in that, like in the first episode, the courtroom thing, there were no real jokes until the very end. This, there were multiple jokes. It was just repeated.
I guess.
And one up.
But
right?
I think if this would have ended, yes, that's what made it great. I think if this would have ended after Gilda's first one being eaten, it still would have been funny.
Okay.
Like, if you played that just what it was, it would still work. But it's funny.
To your point, you always see Gilda and Lorraine's, and it's still funny. What I don't think works is Esther Phillips.
Yeah.
Introduced by Candice Bergen in an awkward little back and forth about she's going to sing the song because she knows the words.
I didn't mind that. I thought that was fun. I thought that was kind of cool.
Okay.
It was interesting. Like, they're still figuring out how to like introduce your musical guest. That's the thing. Like, they're still trying to be different. And they're trying so hard to be different that they can't even just introduce somebody without putting a twist on it. Which again,
they don't
is fine.
introduce her later in the show.
They shouldn't have. I liked it a lot, but I mean, I don't know.
You liked
the intro. I thought the intro was fun. I thought that's
it.
the best thing I thought of this performance. I think Candice Bergen maybe should have sang this song. I mean, granted, I probably have never heard an Esther Phillips song.
Yes.
And I didn't bother to check. Is that how this song sounds? Like on the recording?
I don't know how Esther Williams recorded it, if Esther Williams recorded it.
I mean, Esther Phillips? Who's Esther Williams?
Oh, Esther Williams was, wasn't she the... Anyway, she was the swimming woman.
I think we're thinking... Oh, I don't know. This was like... Esther Phillips was a big deal in the 50s herself. She had like 5 top 10 records her first year. Like, she was an amazing artist. I think she had, addiction issues and kind of fell out. She came back in the 60s and had a #1 song on the R&B charts called Release Me. So she had already been up, came down, had a comeback in the 60s. And then this was like her second comeback, this disco version that apparently reached #2 on the disco chart. I mean, there's a point in this performance.
Yeah.
I almost wanted Janice Ian back.
I don't know that I buy that.
It's in my notes. It must have been that way.
Really?
Yeah, it says right here, I almost want Janice Ian back. Right after my note about the first cutaway away from her is to an amazing bassist who I was hoping when they cut to the bass was Duck Dunn, and somehow this guy was way better. The beard, really? He had like the long hair and a huge like Steve Cropper. It's like if you had Steve Cropper and Duck Dunn had a bastard child. It's the bass player for Esther Phillips. And right after we see that guy, and I'm like, cool. My only other note on this performance is I almost want Janice Ian back.
I think I like this performance better because of the band.
Well, you got the house band. The house band plus. I mean, you see Howard Shore at the end. At the very end conducting.
You see Paul Schaefer in there too.
Full head of hair, Paul Schaefer.
And crazy glasses. Yeah. Seeing Howard Shore I thought was fun too.
Fun, yeah.
But her little staccato thing that she did in the song drove me nuts.
But we don't know. None of us here know if that's how she's supposed to sound. Like if that's how the record sounds.
No, and I'm okay with that.
That's fine. Anybody out there knows, please tell us.
I would look it up.
Yeah,
It was
weird. It was weird.
I just want to put this performance behind me.
Moving on.
The next thing that comes out is Chevy comes out doing Shakespeare.
Yeah. Yes.
I thought this part of this bit was fun. So Chevy's doing Shakespeare. I believe it's Hamlet.
I don't know. I'm not that learned.
Speaking to the skull.
Yeah.
But he's obviously reading all of his lines off of the skull. But he's doing a nice little Shakespearean accent as he does it.
It's a funny bit. Like,
it's fun. And then he drops the skull and it breaks. And he goes back to the same joke we saw in the cold open, where he picks up the pieces that he dropped and then reads them out of order and is like, oh, I
didn't notice that part. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's the same bit. But it's funny. It holds up, and then he gets there, he can't find something. He's like, he was a good friend. Yeah.
When he drops character is really good.
And then he picks up one piece that says, oh, now it's time for the Polaroid commercial.
Yeah, and then we get a legitimate commercial.
We get a legit commercial of Candice. Candice comes out dressed in a bee costume.
The bee is back, which I thought was funny. Again, having fun. Like, she's totally into it. This is a prime example of Candice Bergen selling this show.
And you can tell she's having fun doing it. And then she launches into her Polaroid spiel, which Candice Bergen was a spokesperson for Polaroid at this time and was for a few years after this.
But yeah, I mean, it's funny. Her and Chevy do the bit, her as a bee, him still dressed as Shakespeare. And they have fun at the end. Where she's like, you look like a turkey, and he called. I don't know why, like, you look like a wasp. I thought it was one of the best lines of the night.
It's hilarious.
She looks like a wasp.
Yes, she is. I thought that was funny. I had that written down.
What I'm not sure is funny is long distance next. Is my order right now? Long distance?
Yeah. Long distance is next. It's a commercial that is just odd. And
What?
it's,
I don't know. What in the hell is this?
I don't know. So it's a commercial wherein it's like, do you remember when you were a boy and your mother used to dress you up like her?
First note, why is he in a dress? Why is this kid in a dress?
It's, I don't know. The whole commercial is odd, and I don't find it that funny.
No. Well, like, so I interrupted you, but there's a kid, like you see the boy and then you cut to him later in his 20s or whatever, and he's moved away and he goes call his mom. And as he's doing that, his partner, who's also a man, comes to sit next to him. And it's something like, well, even if they don't live with you or they're not there, the tagline is like, it's the next best thing to being her.
Yes.
And that's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, is this,
I don't know.
Is this like from the makers of Jamatol? Like, it's just trying to be a witty gay joke? Cause like,
yeah.
but I don't understand the dress part.
I don't
understand how the kid
I don't have answers for you.
Becomes gay and then calls his mom. And I don't know. I ended this with what the fuck was that? I had no idea what this was.
I didn't even write that down. I didn't know what it was. Don't know what it is.
I don't. I don't know. Listen, they're not all winners.
My immediate reaction though was, this feels like Michael O'Donoghue, but I don't know. So
I had that thought too, but then at one point I feel like this is like, no, like something was so off about this that made me, it didn't have that classic O'Donoghue miss that it missed, but it didn't miss like O'Donoghue miss. I don't know. Like, this is a Franken and Davis bit, maybe. I don't know. I don't know where this came from.
Oh, well, let's not worry about it any longer.
It's all good. Is it?
Let's talk about Weekend Update, which starts next.
This was fun.
Again, Chevy on the phone. Chevy with his first, I'm Chevy Chase and you're not, to start.
Even before that, I think this is one of the best Chevy, what do you want to call them? Improv on the phone intros. What do you mean you're late? It's one of the best. And then he forgets your name. Like, to me, this is one of the best ones he's done. At least this season, hands down, the best one so far.
Definitely the best one so far. Yeah, definitely the best one so far. And then we get into Weekend Update. He gets into what I think it's a very nicely paced Weekend Update. It didn't feel rushed. He was getting the jokes off and not feeling like he had to rush through them. And it was still like 3 minutes before we went to the commercial.
Yeah, it felt good. As is Weekend Update, a lot of topical political stuff. So, some of that carries, some of it doesn't. The arms attached to the Venus was probably the best joke of it. I thought it was really good.
I agree.
and the capper, when they talk to the museum guy and he responds, I do not speak English.
Yeah, at the Louvre. No, it was good. It was funny. Then he throws to a filmed message.
Yep, still cutting into commercial.
Which was, again, try opening.
Yeah, I didn't like this one as much. And you really liked the first one, so I'm intrigued if you liked this try opening.
I did not like it as much as the first one.
Something
I agree.
Was off. I don't know what.
It was just different. It wasn't, I don't know, it wasn't as good. And then we come back from commercial and we have Congresswoman Jane Curtin coming on for an editorial reply.
Yeah, our first guest on the desk.
Yeah, so she plays a congresswoman, like I said, using her real name, as we mentioned earlier, replying to a fake editorial that they had the week before on Weekend Update.
I mean, none of this matters because the point was for Chevy to make fun of her behind her back. So
I don't. It was fine.
I
don't know. There's something about this, like when he does this, making fun of people in that way, that just comes off to me or feels to me as very childish. I think it's because of the faces.
Yeah,
I know, but like, I don't know.
Like even I, who does not love Chevy, like obviously Team Belushi, and I think this is funny. I it's childish, it's sophomoric, it's lampoon. It was good. I liked it.
Yeah,
I thought it was funny. I didn't realize, like, this is the bit you've always seen, or at least you used to see for the first 20 years when this made the highlight reels. But I had no idea. I always assumed the bit of him doing this was Jane was like way farther into the show's history. I had no idea this was episode 4 that this bit came out.
No, I didn't either. It was earlier than I thought too. But Jane is great. Like, she just does her thing, looks over when she's supposed to.
She's a great foil for this. She's the perfect one.
She is.
I think Weekend Update really found itself on this one. Like you said, pacing, timing, jokes, introducing new people like onto the set as well, which we're going to see time and time again. I almost guarantee we'll probably see somebody next week because it worked so well this week.
Right.
It's nice. It's good to see it all come. And then, they go back to the well, bring back Garrett Morris again for the School of Hard of Hearing 2 weeks in a row. And if that wasn't enough to repeat the top story, we get our closing good night and have a pleasant tomorrow. So, it was fun.
I also didn't appreciate before this, like how much Garrett talks over Chevy.
Oh yeah, it's so good. So good.
It's funny. From there, we go to another fake commercial, but this one is just Candice by herself playing Katrine Duveneau.
She's French. Yeah. Pardon?
She is French, and Candice does this whole bit with a French accent with her head on a bottle of Chanel No. 5. And then the bit is she picks her head up and the bottle's stuck to her head.
Yeah, I mean, this is another example that I would say this really isn't funny, but it's fun.
It's
like
fun.
I enjoyed it. I liked watching Candice Bergen do the impression. Some of the lines are funny where she's talking about being a movie star and saying a lot, but I didn't laugh out loud until she lifted her head up. When she lifted her head and the bottle stuck on the side and she did, but I was like, what is this? Yeah. Like, again, it was fun to watch.
It was. And she was great.
Yeah. Interesting note, Catherine Deneuve, whatever our lovely French woman's name is, Catherine Deneuve. Whatever. Deneuve. Will go on to get impersonated 2 more times in the future of SNL. Nora Dunn does her in the 80s.
Oh.
And Cicely Strong does her in whenever, the 2010s. Yeah. So she's actually has come up again in the lore of SNL. And at this point, she was a big deal. The name didn't, ring a bell to me, but she was in a movie in the last year with Burt Reynolds. And then before that with Jack Lemmon. So apparently she was a big deal in 1975.
You know who is a big deal in 1975 is Andy Kaufman.
He's back. Number 3, right? This is number 3?
This is number 3. He was introduced by Candice.
I liked it. I liked that. It was cool.
That was a nice introduction. And this is the first time we see Andy's foreign man on Saturday Night Live.
I think this is the first time it had been seen. Like, I don't think he had done this before. No. I could be wrong, but I think this is the first time he actually did. I mean, maybe not in the club, but like on a wide audience. I think this is the first time. And he commits to it.
He commits to everything.
That's it. That's duh. But like, no, because like, again, as I said, I don't unabashedly love Andy Kaufman. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't like it. And this was one I could feel like, I'm like, like if you don't know that this is a bit, it's kind of hard to watch this and imagine like what these people are thinking live, both in the audience and at home. Because we now, it's 40 some years later, we know Andy Kaufman, we know the routine, we know behind the scenes. But if all you've seen from this guy is 2 lip syncing bits on a record player, and now this, because this is the first time on SNL. And again, I don't know how many people knew him beforehand, but like, this is the first time we've actually heard him, right?
Yeah.
Because he's only lip synced the first 2 times.
I'm sure people thought that this was his voice.
I would think so. Yeah.
Yeah. That he had an accent and was foreign.
And that he was like completely fucking up. Like, can we stop the tape? Like when he tries to stop the tape or turn off the TV, like it's great.
And he the way he starts his breathing is like really light breathing, like he's having a panic attack. And he's like, can we stop the tape? Yeah. Oh, it's so good. Yeah.
This is a ride. And you've got to go through the whole thing because it ends great with the breathing and the panic and the thing, and then he like starts hitting the bongo. But again, we know he does the bongo routine, so it's coming. But again, if you didn't know any better, but so it ends great. But it's like that's a ride. That was definitely a ride. That whole bit. There were times you're just like, what is going on?
Yeah, and he starts doing his little tap dance routine. It's just so good. It's so well thought out. I think seeing it on television like this is one thing, and you're like, oh, this poor guy's bombing. But imagine seeing this in the clubs in the early 70s and just being like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
Because he would totally commit to these things for his entire set.
Yeah.
And then, he would have crowds hating him.
He'd come out and read Great Gatsby. Yeah. And that was his performance. So I like this one. I mean, again, it was a little not hard to sit through, but it definitely required a bit more than his first two performances. But it was, I mean, 3 for 3, Andy Kaufman, I'd say so far this season.
Oh, absolutely. After this, we have an interesting little sit down with Candice and Gilda. Just the two of them on stage talking about their insecurities. Gilda tells some stories that maybe fall flat with the audience, but it's an interesting little conversation piece between the two of them.
It's something different. Again, it's not funny, but it's fun. Like, it's fun to see. Obviously, you know, what Gilda ate worked well week 3. So, you know, what way can we kind of do that again? And, you know, it makes sense. You've got a female host on. Let's put the two ladies out there and have them do their thing, you know, and this, you know, this introduces the Albert Brooks film, which again, as I was saying before, they're still trying to find ways to be clever, to introduce, you know, they just don't want to be like, ladies and gentlemen, a film by Albert Brooks, you know, so you know, they're, again, as we've been saying, every episode, they're trying in real time on air to see what works and what doesn't work. But, you know, it was serious. I mean,
it was
like Candice Bergen got serious when they started talking about the ERA and the vote. Like when she made the line, when Gilda said she didn't vote because she had to work or something, and Candice is like, you and other voter. Like she had a very like negative, that felt real response to that. Like she obviously cares about this. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think she definitely had a reaction to it that seemed real and probably was real because this was a big deal.
Yeah. What was it was the ERA vote, right?
Yeah. So it's the Equal Rights Amendment vote, but both New York and New Jersey were trying to introduce bills at the state level for equal rights for women, and they failed by close margins.
Women, or as you called them earlier this season, homebodies, I believe, right? At this time in the 70s?
No.
Homebodies?
No.
What were they referred
I said it was homemakers.
Homemakers, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you,
No.
homemakers.
I did not refer to them as homemakers.
Let's go to the tape.
We should. Anyway.
But yeah, it was something new and different to see. I don't know how many times in the future we're going to see people come out, whether it's the host or the cast, and, you know, talk about legitimate current events, things that are topical and on their mind. So it was interesting to see. And I mean, I actually enjoyed it to the point where at the end I was like, wait, this is an intro? Like this is all an intro to Albert Brooks? I was like, God damn it.
And so there have been intros to Albert Brooks every week, right? I don't know about the first episode. I don't remember, but I know Paul Simon and Rob Reiner introduced his films. And now obviously Candice and Gilda did.
Right. I just meant like I was enjoying the bit. Like it played fine as its own thing. Why was that an intro? Like just, you know, like I don't know. Not that it cheapened it, but I enjoyed the two of them doing their thing. And I felt kind of let down that like that was an intro. Was it an after? Like, hey guys, just go up. Like, was it like just go up there and talk for a minute and then introduce Albert Brooks? Because
possibly
that was more enjoyable than Albert Brooks. Again, Andy Kaufman, 3 for 3. Albert Brooks, 0 for 3. Just saying.
Well, I think as a whole, possibly 0 for 3. I feel like there are bits in every Albert Brooks episode that are enjoyable.
I'll give you that. Yes.
The whole movie's, anyway, we won't have to talk about old ones.
No.
But
as I said, I don't think he's not funny. It's just the level and stature I don't agree with. But like this idea to me had potential. This, what is it? Seasons? Grand seasons? New seasons? I don't know. The
whole idea is that these are mid-season replacement shows for NBC. And so they're showing you, 3 previews of upcoming shows that are coming to NBC. The first one's called Medical Season.
I think there's 4.
There's 3 that they show long clips of. Will you just let me talk? If you
want to, all long. Fine, I'm done. Go ahead, talk about Albert Brooks. Go ahead. I'm gonna go to the bathroom. I'll be back. Let me know when you're done.
So there's a Medical Season show, which is like a drama wherein everything is awkwardly worded. Then there's the 3 of Us, which is like a precursor to Three's Company about a married. It's a married couple who have a female roommate, and Albert Brooks plays the husband, and he's constantly trying to get a threesome with the 2 women. And then the third one is Black Vet, which is about a black man who was in the war and then came back and lived in the South to become a veterinarian. So he's a black vet who is a black vet. And then they talk about some other shows, which was Tuesday Night Nightclub, Death of a Salesman by Children.
That was funny. I'll give him I will give credit. The kids doing the Death of a Salesman bit was funny. I thought that was good.
Do you have your saccharin?
It was funny.
Something about bicentennial programs, and then at the end it's like, hopefully a special by Albert Brooks.
Oh, primetime special or something. Yeah. It had potential. So, I don't know.
It had potential. There were some funny bits, I thought, in the three of us with Albert Brooks. They had a laugh track going the whole time. And then every time he spoke, there was a laugh track after it.
All right.
Yeah.
We'll give him that one too. It was good.
Right? Yeah. There were some funny bits.
That was the funniest of the 4 or 5. Yeah. And again, the kid's line, the hospital thing, I thought nothing. The black vet, I also missed the black vet reference, double entendre, whatever. I missed that. And the nightclub was okay. So, but yeah.
Yeah.
On a whole, I wasn't a fan still.
That's all right.
I'm sure he's worried about my thoughts. He's done quite all right.
He's typing you a terse memo as we speak. After this, we have another television show, Midnight Probe, with host Candice Bergen, hosting 2 Kiwi trappers played by John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd, who are U.S. vets who live in New Zealand, and they trap these little Kiwi birds.
So good to see the 2 of them together.
And they're so good together. Aykroyd is in his, character of like a vet. He's got his, I don't know if it's his voice.
He's in Aykroyd mode.
Yeah.
Belushi's in Belushi mode. Like, this is the first time I think we see the 2 of them together. Like, they were in home securities, I know, but they were kind of like against each other, so to speak. Like, this was the first time we see them as a pair, and it's so fun.
And they're so good together.
They are.
And it kind of felt at points like they were improvising, even though I don't think they were, but the way that they just, like, Belushi was saying, like, this guy sleeps with however many of them, and then Aykroyd goes off and he's like, you can't sleep. Like, it was great.
I mean, this goes nowhere. This sketch, I have 2 notes.
Yeah, no.
Like, and I don't mean it in a bad way. Like, I know I've complained about this for 3 episodes, but like, this is silly. It's simple, but it's fun. Like, this whole sketch really is a setup for them to chase Candice Bergen around the set and throw her in a bag.
Right.
And like, it's not really that funny joke-wise, but it's so fun to watch. Like, I loved it. It was like, you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't laugh out loud funny. And I'm wondering, I'm like, where's this going? It's fun to watch Dan. It's fun to watch John. And then at the end, I'm like, is that really what this whole sketch was? And it's like, yeah, but I liked it. It was fun.
It was fun. Yeah. And I think you were right when you said that earlier. This sketch is fun.
It's fun. And Candice Bergen, like, again, props to her. Like, she's game in it. She's fun. Like, here you go. Beautiful movie star coming in doing this, still underground, whatever comedy show. Yeah. Chase me around the stage, throw a bag over my head and like dance around me on like, yeah, it's great.
Yeah. But then it literally ends it just stops.
And oddly enough, didn't bother me. I was like, great, there's nowhere else to go. It's funny. That was the gag. Move on.
Well, we move on to one of the weirder bits that we see in SNL so far.
Well, this is Mike O'Donoghue for you right now.
He's swinging hard. So it's O'Donoghue making a crank call to Trans-American Airlines. And Lorraine answers the phone, and O'Donoghue just goes into this really weird rant about all of these horrible things he wants to do to her. And I think the only thing that I liked about this sketch was Lorraine doesn't react to it. She just keeps the phone and is like, okay, well, you have a good day.
Yeah, she's good. No, she's good with it. And I mean, this is the first time we see like the sinister Mike O'Donoghue. Like, we see it, you know what I mean? Like, this is like the impetus, I think, of Mr. Mike that we'll get down the road. You know what I mean? Like, this worked largely in part to what you just said, to Lorraine's play off of him, but regardless, it works. And so he's going to like, let's double down. And we'll see this repeatedly throughout his career, but throughout the season. But no, I mean, it was short, it worked, and it's interesting to see, like I say, the first time we see the evil Michael O'Donoghue on camera.
On camera. Yeah,
On
and not the
camera.
last time we'll see him, but well, from the weird twisted mind of Michael O'Donoghue, we go to the weird twisted mind of whoever wrote The Land of Gorch for this episode.
Did you like this one?
No.
Because your busty Muppet's back. That was my first thought. My first thought was, oh, Gary's busty Muppet's back. Quickly followed
Yes.
by, this goes nowhere, ... again.
There are gligs that they eat. They run out of gligs. I don't really know. I don't know how to describe this one.
At one point, I just was like, can we just get to Favat? Like, you know the routine now.
Right.
Plubis, whatever, has an issue. There's a problem. Let's go see Favat. There's a joke with Favat. Maybe if you're lucky. End scene. It's like, let's just get there.
Yeah.
Like, what is the thinking that goes into these? Like, this is nothing. This sketch is nothing.
But I think, we talked about it earlier. These are written by writers who don't want to be writing these.
But at least try. Like, what was the point of this? Like, they go to the Favat, right? And they're like, okay, he's like, the whole thing was like, oh, they only had 2 of the glicks. What are they called? Glicks?
Yeah, you were right.
Okay. Gligs. So, we only have 2 gligs. Let's go ask Favat what to do. And Favat's fee is something, and a glig. So they give him the glig, and then Scratch, or whatever the hell his name is, tells, Plebis, oh, well, he's telling, we only have 2. He's like, oh, we only have 1. And then, like, they give him back the glig. Like, that's the whole, what was the point? Like, we gave you 1, you give it back, now go away. It just bothers me.
That's fair.
I don't know.
It's bothersome.
We'll see they get better with it. Like, they incorporate them into the show better because everyone realizes it's not working.
Right.
But for now, it's like someone's trying, I guess, but I don't know. Ugh.
After this, we have Candice interviewing Belushi as the king of some third world country, is what she says in the bit.
Yeah. She calls him a raghead, right?
She does at one point, yes.
Did I catch that correctly?
She does. You did. The whole thing starts with like the 2 of them being really nice and jovial and drinking coffee or something. And then
you're going to have to explain this one to me. Keep going.
Yeah. And then Candice is talking to him about the interview she's about to do. And then when she starts interviewing him, it goes from this nice, friendly conversation of the 2 of them to her just insulting him and setting him up for different gags and to be the butt of her jokes.
Mm-hmm.
She cuts his tie, turns it into a handkerchief, and he's like, his level of frustration increases. Yeah, that's it. Hey, Belushi's good in this. I don't know what else to tell you.
No, they're good. The whole, like, I brought you a letter, I forgot to stamp it. Like, that was, see that one coming a mile away. Yeah, I mean, but again, there's no point to this other for them to like go at it with each other. Again, you can tell they get along really well. They're having fun. It was fun. Like they really seem to have fun with each other. And while this sketch goes nowhere, like she takes a marker out and draws a goatee on his face and then shoves it up his nose. Like it's so stupid, but it's fun. Like you can tell they're having fun. So like, does this have any more of a point than the Muppets? No, probably not. But like this was fun. And you know what this had that the Muppets didn't?
Belushi? Are you going to say Belushi?
Friend of the pod, Neil Levy.
Oh, that's right. Yes. You're
so
right.
You get bonus points for that.
I forgot that Neil Levy comes in. Yeah, it's not worth watching this one again.
No. But this is a case like even the quote unquote bad sketches are fun for the most part. The most part.
As you've said, Candice Bergen's having fun. That then allows the cast to have fun, and everything she's in and they're in, everyone's just enjoying themselves. Huge credit to Candice Bergen for this. The next show after this, not as much fun. Black Perspective, hosted by Garrett Morris.
Another weird one.
His guest is Jane Curtin.
Soul Sister Jane Curtin.
He does call her Soul Sister. She plays a novelist of black novels, essentially, who gives insight to the urban black experience.
It's actually funny the way when you say it like that.
Oh,
it's funnier. It's actually funnier than watching them do it, I feel like.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll see this again. We see Black Perspective again with Garrett. And it's nice that Garrett has something that we'll see again, which is fun. And there are definitely obviously better ones. To paraphrase my last segment question, Jungle Bunny? Did I hear that?
Yes.
kind of shocked they'd go that far. Even it's like, it's one thing when we see it in a few weeks with the Richard Pryor sketch where that's what it's all about.
Right.
It felt really weird in this one, like the way they did it here.
It's interesting because Jane plays it so straight and she does a really good job with that. But it is just an awkward sketch. Like, I don't know. Is it meant to just push the boundaries again, like everything else?
I don't know. I don't know how well this hits. But the uncomfortableness or just like, I don't know how well this plays today factor of it. Aside from that, like, it's funny. She's like, write what you know. And then Garrett's like, he's like, you really look nothing like your picture. And they turn it on the back. I was like, holy shit, they're really going for this. And she's like, I don't photograph well. Like, they're like doubling down. I was like, more power to you, man. Like, there's definitely good bits in it.
Yeah. I forgot about that. Yeah. You don't look like your picture bit.
You really don't. All right. This next one's going to be interesting. Let's hear your ramble on this.
I like how you call it a ramble, but okay.
Well, no, please inform us.
So the next bit is just Pong on screen.
Yeah.
It's just two guys playing Pong, and the voiceover is Franken and Davis having a conversation about Al Franken is taking his girlfriend home for Thanksgiving, I think it is.
Yeah.
And they're just playing Pong the whole time throughout this entire bit. And it's all very straightforward for the most part until the very last joke.
Yeah, the payoff's funny. It was a bit long getting there because, like, as you said, you're watching the screen and this is 1975. So most people today probably remember what Pong is. When was Pong huge? Was it huge now? Like then? When was their heyday?
Pong was huge now. So Pong came out in the early 70s, 1972.
Oh, okay. So yeah, all right.
But it was an arcade game.
Right.
And so they released a home version that actually had come out just around this time.
Okay.
In 1975. And this is where it really took off, was like the Christmas of 75. So this is early Pong.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, for this, it's interesting for this to be the only visual the whole time. It's not like you see Franken and Davis at all. It's just the two of them talking over this game of Pong.
Oh, I think the concept works. It's a funny, interesting concept. I just don't know. Like I said, it goes on a little long and it takes a little while to get into it. But like, and I was trying to like watch the game as like the dialogue matching against the scoring, which I think, was matched up pretty well. It was kind of funny, but it just was a little bit long for just the Pong.
Well, they played one whole match of Pong. That's why. Yeah. The whole thing was like it was just an entire match of Pong. Like you play to 11, I think, and then the game's over.
Yeah. I mean, it feels very Franken and Davis. They were definitely the best voices for this because it's...
Oh, totally.
It feels very much in their wheelhouse.
But they didn't write it, correct?
I don't know. I saw that Zweibel wrote this, but I haven't been able to confirm it. We'll get in touch. Friend of the pod, Alan Zweibel. We'll ask him.
We'll have to report back once
we'll get back to this, yes. But it was funny. It was good. We're going to see this one again. Another reoccurring bit that starts this episode. I've lost count, a handful of them this time, but it was funny. Again, even the stuff that's bad or doesn't hit is still fun. Like there's still enjoyable stuff to watch from it. I mean, sorry, not all the things that are bad, because we have to yet again end the show with a musical number.
We end with Esther Phillips. I don't know that this is bad, but again, only because of the band. Like, I don't know that I enjoyed the song. I know I didn't enjoy the song, actually. I'm just being nice. But no introduction into Esther Phillips. She just shows up on camera, fade from black to Esther Phillips, and she sings, "I Can't Stand a Little Rain," in a beautiful yellow dress.
Yeah.
But other than that...
I just looked. Is this a cover of a Joe Cocker tune? I couldn't even figure this out. I phoned in my Esther Phillips research. I'm not going to lie. So anyway.
Well, that's the last bit of the night. Then we go to our good nights. And this is the first time we see the cast on stage with the host saying good night.
That's fun. I'm intrigued to see if they do it next week because it felt fun and cool. And again, that sense of community. It's all Candice Bergen. It's all her. You could tell she had fun. You could tell they loved having her there. Like, no one was running out. I mean, Paul Simon, they were all gone by Weekend Update anyway. Rob Reiner was a pain in the ass. So like, yeah, it was just fun to see them all together. And I'm excited to see, not excited, but I'm interested to see if they do it next week.
Yeah, me too. But that was the show.
Yeah, like I say, it was a decent show. I don't know if it's the funniest, but like it was fun. And even talking about it now, I enjoyed it more now talking about it than I did watching it. Like I enjoyed it after I was done watching it, but after going through it again, I'm like, yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it is a lot of fun. And I think you've said it, and I agree with you completely. Candice Bergen made this show fun, made this episode fun for everyone.
Yeah, like we said in the beginning, a lot of credit or whatnot gets put on this show as being this episode, as being the one where the show really finds its footing. But in watching these, in order here as we have, I would say it's a combination of last week and this week. I think they learned a lot last week. I said that, the two things of the cast, kind of breaking that fourth wall and going kind of behind the scenes a little bit, and then showcasing the cast on like who they are, from what Gilda ate last week, doing it again with her, right. and Candice this week work. You saw a lot of the cast this week. Dan and Garrett had a scene, John and Dan, Chevy's in a bunch. The women were all together in the Jaws scene a little bit. So you got to see people a little bit more, which was nice. And, you're seeing some things that will come time and time again. The Chevy chase and I'm not. The host with the cast at the end. Garrett gets a reoccurring sketch that starts here. So there's tons of stuff in here, but it's more so this one, I think I said last week was the cast realizing like when you pull the curtain back, that's what people like, that was right. Something good. That's what's working. And that's what really let them find their voice. And I think that coupled with this week of having fun, of getting people in who understand it's supposed to be fun. It's about the show. It's not about ego. It's not about the host. It's about having fun. I think those two things combined are what really, at least in my mind, and we'll see what happens in the next few weeks, but that's what I think lays the groundwork to what everybody knows the show to be.
Yeah. I think you're starting to see big changes happening, right? Like the show is evolving week to week now, and it's starting to find some things that work and hit, and they'll go back to those things over and over again because they worked, and not in a bad way. Like that's not to say that they're repeating themselves constantly, but it's finding the things that, yeah, this worked. Let's do it again and try other things and see what continues to work and not. It's good.
Yeah. It's funny that, we talk so much about how this episode's so good and works well and so much is positive. And this is the episode that Lorne Michaels quits on.
Well, so yeah.
I'm intrigued to see what next week is like, and how they come back.
So Brad, good show, fun show. What are your best bits from this show?
Good show, fun show, enjoyable watch. If you had to watch the whole thing, I don't think you'd be upset. Like I said, it was an enjoyable hour and change. But bits I would have to watch, Jaws, Land Shark.
Yeah.
And probably Update. I think this is the first really solid Update all the way through. I'd say Land Shark and Update are the two things you'd have to watch if you had to watch anything.
All right. I would also, I agree with you, Land Shark, Update. I also liked the CIA sketch just because I think it's the first time we really hear Dan's voice throughout a sketch.
Yep.
Next week, it's episode 5 with host Robert Klein and musical guests ABBA and Loudon Wainwright III. Until then, good night.
Good
and
night.
Have a pleasant tomorrow.
Have a pleasant tomorrow.